All right, so
Swinging IIoT.
Swinging IIoT. So this is selling the benefits of IIoT to SIs, the second video. So we actually weren't going to do this, but I'm going to this is more technical. So I want to kind of explain the value. I touched on some things in the previous video that it might have lost some people, so this video should help shore that up. All right, so what I've got over here is we're going to use Ignition for our example here. It doesn't have to be Ignition. This could be a couple of other, this could be Flow software, we could be Flow supports MQTT, Ignition supports MQTT, Factory Studio, there's a bunch of platforms that support it, but in this case I'm going to explain Ignition. I'm going to use Ignition as the example. All right, so this is an Ignition window, okay? And I'm going to show you how you use IIoT to build dynamic, self-aware screens, okay? So this is my tag structure inside of Ignition. So these are my tags. Now, these tags using Sparkplug B from our PLCs, we can generate these tags using MQTT. So I can bring on new lines, right? So I can bring on line 1. So our screen over here lines up with the line. We basically built a line screen, okay? And I'm gonna explain what that means in a minute. But these boxes also line up with our PLCs. So line 1, once our PLC publishes into the namespace, this is the client ID. Line 1 is gonna show all of the objects that live inside that PLC using MQTT. In the old days, what you've got to do is you have to have your OPC server point to this PLC. You have to build all your tags in your OPC server, and then they'll be here. There's a ton of engineering that goes into just getting the line and all the tags in. What MQTT does is it takes all that away. Here's the other thing. In the old way, your screens have to know what all the tags are that exist already. How many lines do you already have? Because you're going to statically bind, if this is an indirect window, you're going to statically put in what the lines are. What MQTT allows us to do is build the window fully dynamic. That is, if the line exists, therefore it has a visualization, and I'm going to explain that here. That's what I'm doing. All right, so we're looking at Ignition and we're looking at an IIoT solution here. So these are our tags inside of Ignition, and all of these are MQTT topics. Okay, so these are all inside of the MQTT engine inside of Ignition. That's what we're looking at here. Okay, so on my window, I've built a window that has basically two things. It has a root container. If you develop an Ignition, you know there's a root container. We've created a custom property on the root container called parent path. We're going to use that for our indirection. Okay, Zach, you already know how this works, but we're going to use parent path for our indirection. Our parent path is a pointer to the string value of this path. Okay, so what that means is if my parent path is line 1, it looks something like this: Acme, plant 1, line 1. My objects, my V1 object, the way that I'm going to get the values for V1 is I'm going to take my parent path and I'm going to say my tag in an expression is parent path plus valve 1. Okay? You already understand that, right? So that's how the window itself is actually built, through indirection. And anybody who develops with Ignition, this should be familiar. I'm going to take it one step further. So what we've also done is there's a template canvas sitting on top of the window. And that template canvas is basically a data set. It has a data set that has a row. Row 1 would be all the information valve 1. Row 2 is valve 2. Row 3 is pump 1. And row 4 is pump 2. Okay? Now, that data set that's running inside this template canvas tells us which template should go where and where should it get its values from. Okay, so you can build a dynamic screen using template canvas. We do this all the time. Essentially what we do is we build this data set. Every time this parent path changes, what we do is we go and build the data set and tell the screen which components should go on the screen. For example, on line 1 I may have valve 1, valve 2, pump 1, pump 2. But line 2 may have V1, V2, and P1. So when we change the parent path to line 2, once it just shows up, then what we do is we rebuild this data set. It automatically changes on a property change. It rebuilds the data set and only puts 3 templates on the window. And when I point back to line 1, we rebuild the data set for the template canvas and all 4 show up. Now, that's just one part of it. What's the second part? The second part is all of these things just show up when you plug the PLC in. You plug the PLC in, you point it to the broker, they show up, and now you have self-aware SCADA.
I know the answer, but how would the line 1, line 2 show up in the dropdown? What function would you use to?
So there's a couple of ways to do that, and in some of our projects we do it differently. But for the most part, what we're doing is we are recursively browsing before we populate the dropdown. So what we say for the dropdown itself is that dropdown is for plant 1, okay? And then we have our dropdown here. When the window is opened up, we say we point to plant 1, and we go look at all of the child objects, which should be our lines in plant 1, or it could be our areas as well. And then we populate the dropdown based on which ones exist recursively. Now, you want to know the advantage of Ignition 8, and again, if anybody who doesn't know anything about Ignition, I apologize, but the big advantage of Ignition 8 is that you will no longer have to recursively browse here. You'll be able to subscribe to this. Yes. So the new tag structure allows you to not only subscribe to individual tags, but also the properties of those tags. Yes. So you will no longer need to browse to see what exists there. You can subscribe to it.
Last question.
Yeah.
Can you build this window and make it available for download on GitHub?
Actually, in fact, I already have an example of the window, and we could do that. Okay. Yeah, But
we should build it live and then show the screen recording of you building it too.
Yeah, what we can do is, so here's basically what happens. Okay, so right, for the self-aware SCADA, here's what happens. I build in my PLC, so this is my PLC, I build a valve object, and I build a pump object. Then inside my PLC, I create instances of that object. In this case, I've created 2 instances of the valve and 2 instances of the pump. So when I have a V1 and a V2 and a P1 and a P2, as soon as I plug the PLC in and I'm going to publish over MQTT, then what's going to happen is it's V1, V2, P1, P2. Then what happens is when we go to our window, which is also built, we have this V1 template is a template that I developed for that object. So when I think of it as the proposition for the SI is I build the object inside my PLC that is valve, and then I make an object that lines up with my valve. And it can include lots of stuff. For example, underneath our valves, we could have a folder called alarms with high, 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 low, low, low. And then on my template, I could right-click and go to a pop-up window that allows me to do my set points for high, 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 low, and low, low. So I can have a fully integrated, fully dynamic self-aware SCADA system, which we've done already. We've done it many times. And in fact, I have a great example in a plating application where they can add in pH sensors, conductivity sensors, and if the conductivity sensor exists, if it's there, it shows up in the namespace and shows up on the screen. If it doesn't, then it's not there. If they're using 2 tanks as opposed to 1 tank, all they got to do is add the second tank, it just shows up and the second tank's on the screen. So this is the value of IIoT. Again, and I'm inside baseball, force multiplication. Other SIs keep asking me, how are you guys doing this? And I keep saying, well, stop doing it the way everyone taught you to do it and look at what's here. So the answer here is, this is the dream architecture. Right? What we say, we were talking about how do you digitally transform for executives, right? You go to the executive and you say, architect your dream, right? We took the same medicine. We architected our dream solution. We said, in a perfect world, how would a systems integration go?
They don't even call you, they just add the device.
That's right. In the perfect world, they just add the device. And so there are systems integrators that say, well, then I'm not going to get paid for any of this. You're right. You're not. You're going to get paid for it once, but what you're going to do is sell the solution they're going to buy. You're not going to engineer it at all. You're going to build it one time, and they're going to buy the solution from you. But you want to know where they're going to hire you? They're going to hire you here. They're going to ask you to turn this into information. Right now, they're not spending money here because they keep spending it on this. All right? There's your value proposition for SIs. All right.